What are my thoughts on 100,000 ZBCN? Because not too long ago, one of my friends asked me, is 100,000 ZBCN good enough? Even though I can't make a decision for anyone, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, I'm going to explore that scenario and take a look at a make-believe scenario, in which case maybe ZBCN went to the price of 10 cents. Now at that point, 100,000 ZBCN would hypothetically be worth $10,000, because 10 cents times 100,000 ZBCN, 10 grand. Some people may be thinking, who cares about 10 grand? Well, the way I view it is that, yes, even though some people out there have this kind of mindset of 5 million ZBCN, a million ZBCN, 10 million ZBCN, but what happens if, let's say, hypothetically, that's not achievable? Personally, for me, I don't view 10 grand as such a bad thing, because if, let's say, I was able to save 50% of that, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but this is just my perspective. And let's say I use that 5 grand, I just saved 50% of that, and I use it for the next cycle. And for whatever reason, in a make-believe scenario, that holding does a 10x during the next cycle and becomes 50 grand. It doesn't seem that bad to me, because for me, instead of stressing about a certain target that I have to reach, or a certain figure that someone says, oh, that's really good, instead of focusing on that, what I focus on is just what I can work with what I have. It's like, for instance, some people out there say, oh, it's crucial, they say that they want to have 10 Bitcoin or something like that. But what happens if that's not achievable? What if someone can only get one, right? Which is already very impressive, by the way. What are they going to do? Stress out because they can't get 10 of that? It doesn't make sense to me. I wouldn't do that. I would just work with what I have and just constantly dollar cost average hold, and I just wait. Literally, that's it. I talked about a scenario about a million ZBCN, holding that amount, in one of my previous videos. However, in this case, I just wanted to talk about the 100,000 ZBCN part, because I see some people out there, they're kind of worried about, oh, what happens if they don't have this amount? They don't have this amount. Personally, for me, I wouldn't worry about that in my case, because I just work with what I have. That's the way I take a look at it. I'm not going to stress about what someone's able to achieve or what someone's able to do. Instead, it's just literally focusing on what I can work with, and that's pretty much it. 10 cents is around an 18x from here. If someone told me that, you know what, in the world of stocks, somebody made around a 3x or a 5x, I would already think that's very impressive. But then, for whatever reason, within this space, some people out there, they have this mentality where it suddenly doesn't become such a good thing. Maybe in the world of stocks, they're impressed with that, but then in this space, they're like, oh, who cares about that? Well, to me, hypothetical upside at the end of the day is still hypothetical upside. So it doesn't mean that suddenly, because a 4x is maybe considered good in stocks, it suddenly becomes bad here. That's not the way I view it. Again, around an 18x, some people may argue, oh, take a look at this microcap that could do this or do that. ZBCN is not a microcap. If I was looking for a microcap, I would not be believing in ZBCN right now. So this is not what I'm looking for. I get it, some microcaps out there could maybe do something, but then it just seems a little bit too out there for me, in a sense where I don't really want to kind of believe in something like that. But then at the same time, I am not going to suddenly just go all in on Ethereum or something like that, because it's already done very well. I get it, there's a slight pullback as of right now, but so is a bunch of other altcoins. So for me, I'm just going to stick with ZBCN. And of course, I'm not only just holding ZBCN, but in that case, I would just not acquire Ethereum over this. This is my mentality. Also, on top of that, some people out there, they like to tell me, oh, what happens if we don't predict the exact moment in time? In my case, I am not about predicting the exact moment in time. That's not what I do, because how will I know the exact moment in time? I am instead focused on preparation and accumulation over an extended period of time, over predicting the exact moment in time, if that makes sense, because I do not know the future. I do not know when ZBCN is going to be doing its thing. I did not know that before, and I won't know that moving forward for the next leg up, maybe if we do see it. I am not about knowing the exact moment in time. I'm about preparing for a moment in time in which maybe it does something. Because Zebic, it's a very diverse project. Zebic is focused on RWAs, real-world assets, which something like Ondo gave that market sector a lot of recognition, and Ondo is a very massive project. So I like that right there. We take a look at, for instance, AI-based PayFi. A lot of projects out there are kind of focused on AI. A lot of the projects out there are focused on that type of area. So that is also, I think, a good thing when it comes to Zebic. Zebic is also focused on payrolls. Payrolls doesn't really have that much hype, but it's not really anything different. It's not really anything that unique or interesting. So it's kind of like more so of a stable market in a sense where the hype feels a little bit neutral, but there's still some attention there. So I think that's pretty good as well when it comes to Zebic. Zebic as well is focused on cards. Now, the cards isn't really a deal breaker of sorts because many projects out there focus on that, but sometimes people do want to look for that aspect when it comes to a project. So I find that very interesting as well. Now, I get it, some meme coins out there even have their own cards, so it's not like anything really that special when it comes to Zebic, but then at the same time, the Zebic cards, they're powered by MasterCard. They support multiple blockchains like the base network, like Solana, for instance. We take a look at Ethereum. I mean, there's a bunch of, there, but I'm just naming a few there. However, also on top of that, we take a look at how Zebic, the team, I think, is working towards such an amazing goal. Like, they're working towards ISO 20022 compliance, which if they could do that, that would be such a major victory because I think for Zebic to truly gain that recognition as this project that is really focused on payments, really focused on global trade and finance, it kind of needs that aspect. Because we see that when it comes to XDC, right? We see those aspects when it comes to Ripple, Stellar. We also see that, by the way, when it comes to Algorand, which isn't even really a project that's focused on this space like payments and global trade and finance. And even that has ISO 20022 aspects. So Zebic kind of needs that. Now, it's going to take some time, though, because I don't think stuff like that's just going to happen overnight. But I like how they're at least working towards that. It shows how the team is at least caring. Some of its competitors, they're not working towards this for whatever reason. I think they should, though, probably. But then, again, some of them don't. I like that when it comes to Zebic. And Solana, some people like to say, oh, it's never going to defeat Ethereum. I get that in terms of popularity, but we have to consider how Solana has really somewhat gained this mainstream hype as of late. There's a pullback when it comes to Solana, I'm totally aware of that, but in the grand scheme of things, it's still a very popular Layer 1 blockchain. And Zebic, having those aspects of Solana, not only is Solana Ventures one of the backers when it comes to Zebic, but at the same time, also, ZBCN was top 10 in terms of utility not too long ago when it comes to Solana. That's very impressive. Overall, I like the vibe when it comes to Zebic. Working towards compliance, I like that. They have the aspect of Solana. I like that as well. Focus on good markets, in my perspective. And also on top of that, I like how, at the same time, ZBCN doesn't have such an outlandish market cap where it feels too massive, but it's not a microcap either. So it's kind of this good balance in between for me. In the meantime, though, I can at least take a look back in history and see how usually altcoins, typically as a worst case scenario, peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event, which would actually mean around October this year based on the last one. Will that happen? Who knows? But whenever that time frame is, I want to just be holding and just waiting. And when people ask me, is 100,000 ZBCN good enough? I cannot answer that question for anyone. But personally, in my perspective, I would not find that disappointing in my mindset. This is just the way I take a look at it. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I would greatly appreciate it. It's Willie the Captain. I'll catch you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.